All right. Hey, welcome everybody. Actually, don't need these. Hey, welcome everybody. Um, we're actually, I think we're part seven of the. We're doing book nuggets, which is Sun Tzu's Art of War. This is while I'm testing my video on my setup. So, figure while we do that, I'll practice, and then we could do some reading and get some strategy and get some reading going. Reading. I'm gonna be doing this a lot. So, um, a couple of improvements as I make improvements. Hopefully, the experience is increased. So again, I'm learning, and that's what this is about. So I'm practicing, and I figure I'm learning about this, and then get to read Sun Tzu, Art of War, and other books too, because I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm having fun doing this. So so let's get started. Where we left off is actually, let me see, let me go here. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so where we left off, last we were talking about the basically it's imperative to contest all factions for complete victory. Now, for everybody that just coming in, give me 1 second. Let me start it that way. So this is what I gotta figure out a way to start this. So what we're doing is Art of War, Sun Tzu Art of War nuggets. I'm calling them nuggets because we dropped them into 30 minutes. So about 30 minutes, we'll go over. We'll read about. Right now, it looks like 5 to 6 pages at about 30 minutes because of discussions and everything, right? So Sun Tzu Art of War is the actual book that I'm reading from, so you guys can get it. At the same time, I'm testing like the lighting and everything. So if you see anything that could need improvement, let me know, and we'll take it from there. The next thing is I think that's it. I think we'll get started. And you could these nuggets, you can start them. You don't have to like go. It's good to go to the beginning, but the quotes, because there are kind of accumulative quotes, but the quotes with them that I'm looking now, the quotes themselves are they're pretty complete within themselves. So I'm saying even if you don't have you don't have to actually, I recommend start at the beginning, but you don't have to start at the beginning. You can just do the nuggets as you choose and randomly pick nuggets, whatever you do. But I'm reading them in that order. So I'm following this book, so I'm actually just going literally through this book, through the order. So if you have this book, pull it out. If not, like I said, I'm reading it. I did type some of the information here so you can see it, but you can only fit with so much information on the screen. But I just wanted to give you a gist of that. So we're on page 74, and we'll go ahead and start this. And then so Master Sun Tzu says, so the rule for the use of military is that if you outnumber the opponent 10-1, then surround them. If you outnumber sorry about that. If you outnumber, I was playing with the thing. Sorry about that. Let me read it all over. So the rule for use of the military is that if you outnumber the opponent 10-1, then you surround them. 5-1, attack. 2-1, divide. So, all right, so my take on it, which is pretty, to me, I'm not gonna say straightforward, but my take on this is, if somebody's outnumbered, it's definitely attack. And I like how you broke it down. If it's 5-1, then you basically attack. You do a direct attack. You surround them if you outnumber them by a lot. You just surround them, and then that makes it a lot easier. Plus, there's no escape as well. But if you have 5-1, then you attack, right? So you still have the advantage in numbers. So you attack. But if it's 2-1, then you want to divide because you want to minimize their numbers, because numbers is important. In fact, one of the things I found out about Sun Tzu, again, like, I don't know how 100% accurate this is, but supposedly Sun Tzu, he trained and he led an army of 30,000 men into war against the Chu. So supposedly he's a real person, and who was born in 544 BC, died in 496 BC, which because it goes basically from higher numbers to lower numbers before it comes up to where we're at, where it goes incremental. So he had 30,000 men, and he defeated Wu's the Chu's army of 300,000. So Chu had an army that was 10 times the size of his, and he overcame the Chu's army. So basically devised efficient, effective, and lethal strategies and was able to overcome them with 30,000 troops. So this dude is the real deal, in my opinion, like, because you're taking out an army of 300,000 with 30,000 men. So this he's not just talking. This guy actually did it. Like, dude, he took out an army 10 times the size of his. So this stuff is really, really impressive. All right, so dude, that's my take though. So when you have to attack, if you one-on-one divide it, I'm just following what he says in this one. My thing is, I don't have that knowledge, but what he's saying makes sense to me. So my commentary is just to say I agree with what he's saying. 2-to-1 divide, yeah, that makes sense, because when you break the numbers down, it makes it easier to manage in regards to anything, right? All right, so now Cacao said, when you outnumber the enemy 10-to-1, then surround them. That is, if the generals are equal in intelligence and bravery, and the soldiers are equal in competence. When you outnumber the enemy 5-to-1, use 3/5 of your forces for direct attack, the other 2/5 for surprise attacks. If you outnumber the enemy 2-to-1, then divide your forces into 2 parts, one for direct assault, the other one for surprise attacks. So that's Cao. Now, Dumu says it takes 10 times as many soldiers to surround an opponent, because you have to set your encirclement up at some distance from the enemy. So the area you are covering is large, and you have to be on strict guard. Thus, if you do not have a lot of soldiers, there will be gaps and leaks. And these are all generals talking. So it makes sense. Now, if there is division among the ranks of the enemy, so that there is no coherent chain of command, then they will fall apart by themselves, even if you do not surround them. If you do surround them under such circumstances, needless to say, they will be annihilated. When Master Sun says you need 10 times their number to surround the enemy, this is when your leaders are equal in intelligence and courage, and your soldiers are equal in competence, not when there is dissension in the enemy's own ranks. Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because most of the things he's talking about is on equal playing field, right? So if my warriors are top notch and best conditioned, best trained, and my generals are at their peak, and their generals are the same or formidable opponents, then then it makes sense. But if they're in disarray, then it doesn't apply. So he's saying just go on and attack. It's like if you're looking at the Chicago Bulls versus the Celtics back then, right? The two teams were. This is like going back in historic basketball, but the two teams are pretty much equal. So everything in that sense matters. But if you was doing the Bulls back then versus it was New Jersey Nets at the time, it's not equal. So it's not even it doesn't really apply, right? So that's basically where that comes from. So he's basically saying if they're not on your level, then you don't even have to do that. But then it goes back into some of the other stuff that was said where you make it appear that way, right? See, so the deception would be you make the enemy think that you're incompetent. And then so when they're looking at this assessment, they have 10 times the people, but they go in recklessly. And meanwhile, you're on their level where they think you're not. So now you actually gain an advantage where they don't expect you to be as powerful or the way the perception is not the reality. So you actually are perceived as weak. So they come in, see how instead of surrounding you, this is kind of from a different angle, because they're saying this is well, at least Dumu is saying. At least I don't even know if it's Dumu or Kapow. Yeah, at least Dumu is saying that, right? So he's giving an example. So you're seeing an example from both sides just by this commentary, because they're saying now that it applies if we're of equal standing, but if not, then just go and attack, right? So earlier he was using the points of deception, saying that um, make it look as though you're weak, so they don't assume that you're strong. Now, if the other team was competent, right, they would actually play incompetent. So now Dumu would bring his forces in, and then he may not be victorious because the other ones they had old people, feeble people, and that's when the other general was like, nah, something's not right, because he goes, if we're equal, yo, why is it like they're all famished and there's poor, you only see elderly, you only see weak, but you don't see. But the other, they were hiding their soldiers. So when they went in to attack them, thinking that they were weak, they went in without a strategy, without a plan, thinking that it was easy, and then they got overtaken. So this is cool because you're getting the gist of it, where you're hearing him say, "Hey, if they're not formidable, go in and attack." Now, again, this determines on their assessment, right? So hopefully his assessment is correct, that they're weak and that they're not feigning weakness when they're really strong. So that was cool, man. That was cool. So like that yeah, I'm excited about that. That sounds crazy, but I'm excited about that. So that was it, man. So now Ho Yang Z saying, when you calculate and compare the strength of your forces and those of your opponents, take into account the talent, intelligence, and courage of the generals. If you are 10 times stronger than the enemy, this is 10 to 1. When you can surround them, foiling any attempts to get away. And that's what I'm saying. So you surround them, you limit retreat. But yeah, so this is pretty cool. Now, Dumu is saying if you are 5 to 1 against your opponent, then you should take 3/5 of your forces, divide them into 3 units to attack the enemy from one side, keep back 2/5, watching for points of unpreparedness on the opponent's part, and taking advantage of them by surprise attacks. So he's just basically saying send an army in, and then to have another army look to see where the weaknesses lie, and then attack the weaknesses. Pretty good. So Chin Ho, or Chin Hao, says when your forces are said to be 5 times those of the enemy, this just means you have extra power. Their forces are deployed here and there. So how could you attack them by only 3 routes? The specific numbers here only refer to attacking a citadel. Now, this is a good point that Chin brings up, because this is the chapter of planning a siege. So, okay, so just the actual chapter itself, for those who are just joining, is planning a siege, right? So they're talking about citadels and surrounding a city, and then garrison troops, which means basically having troops stationed there. The word garrison is a fancy word for just having troops hang out and wait people out, and station ready for war. So that's what Chin Ho's saying. So Dumu is on, if you are 2 to 1 against your opponent, you should take part of your forces and have them head for the opponent's critical points, or attack some point that the opponent will surely go to defend, so that the opponent will split off to go to the rescue. And you can use the other part of your forces to strike them. The principles of war are not a matter of numbers. In every engagement, there are both surprise and frontal attacks. And you do not wait until you have a lot of soldiers to set up reserves for your surprise attacks. So yeah, no, so this is pretty Dumu is saying it right too. Yep, part of the forces for the opponent at some points, or attack some point that the opponent will surely go to defend. Now they mentioned this a few times, right? In order to lure them out. So you attack something that they would want to protect, that's outside of the citadel. So if they see that there's an attack, they're going to send resources to fend off that attack. But those resources is a form of division. right? So you use that as a method of dividing and conquering, basically. So you weaken their forces by setting an attack on something that they value and that you know that they're going to try to protect. Like just to imagine if there's a water supply, you have a citadel and there's a water supply, and you actually you start attacking the water supply. So they know that, hey, listen, without water, we only have a few days, right? So water, no water, you can only, the longest you would survive is what, 11 days, 14 days, possibly. That's with no water. But at that point, your army is getting weaker. Like the whole entire city is getting weak, right? And then the lack of cleanliness. There's now you're bringing in a lot of different things that will hamper the enemy. So what's going to happen is they're going to have to defend that water tower. So you take that water tower, or you send troops at the water tower, they're going to send somebody out there because either A, you're going to die defending that water tower to make sure that they don't take it, or you're going to die a slow death inside the city walls, right? So, and the longer you wait not drinking, they're drinking, your health goes down while theirs maintained. So that increases their numbers exponentially at that point, because now your soldiers are getting fatigued and weak. So all right, so do move. It's my man, do move, do you. I love this dude, do you, because it just says do you. But it's D-U-Y-O-U. So do you. When you outnumber the opponent 2-1, then one part of your attack force makes a direct assault. One part makes a surprise attacks. As they are insufficient to adapt, this confuses the opponent's soldiers and separates them from their army. So a great warrior emperor said, if you cannot divide and move, you cannot talk about surprise maneuvers. So that's do you. All right, cool, man. Let's go on to the next. So we're on page 75. Master Son is saying, if you are equal, then fight if you are able. If you are fewer, then keep away if you are able. If you are not as good, then flee if you are able. Now remember, if you are able to do this, which is pretty good. So my take on it is, if you're equal, then you fight. If you can, right? If it's advantageous. And when they say able, from what I'm getting, able means and when it's advantageous for you. Because every time you make an attack fight, you want to attack or do any type of aggression when it's in your benefit, either through terrain, situation, strength, numbers, anything where you have a strategic advantage and you are equal, you fight, right? Because whoever has the advantage, if me and you are equal, but I have the advantage, then the probability is that I will come out the victor, right? So my probability of victory is higher than yours because we're equal, right? But if I have fewer people, he's saying keep away, right? And then I play Call of Duty, right? So we get, sometimes there's a times when you run into a room or an area and you see a whole team and I'm by myself. My other team is upstairs. I just ran down to do to grab something and I see a whole team. I don't sit there and try to shoot 3 people. I turn around and I haul ass, man, try to get to my team. And I alert them that, hey, man, I see X, Y, Z, and then we'll make an assessment at that point. But man, I hightail it quick. So I keep away if I'm able. You playing with some people that I try to stay away. But if you play with some people that are really good, then you try to get the hell up out of it, man. There's times, man, when I'm running. I'm doing a marathon in the game because the person's chasing you and then they got you like I'm like I ran out of ammo or something. It's that's just the Call of Duty side. And yo, check me out on Twitch, man. So it's BigNard007 on Twitch.com. I think I got a thing here. If you want to watch me play Call of Duty and use these tactics. Well, I'm just starting to read it, but I'm gonna be using some of these tactics on Call of Duty. But check it out. Check out Call of Duty. Is BigNard007 on TwitchTV.com. So every whenever I play, I stream. Yep. And also, man, check out some of the cats I play with. DrBoyceWatkins.com. Let me put that up there. Dr. Boyce Watkins. Check him out. Talks about he does a lot of talking about finances. So when we're playing, if you're watching, you can actually ask him questions. about finances, like stocks and stuff like that. That's the answer. And G Maculate Gaming, that's my man. He plays with us too. So that's our squad right there for the most part. All right, just now back to the thing. I just wanted to throw that out there because I brought it up here. But yeah, so Cacao's response, that's my take on it though. What I was just saying there. But Cacao is saying if your forces are equal to those of the enemy, even if you are good, you shall still set up ambushes and surprise attacks to prevail over them. Otherwise, be defensive and do not engage in battle. Or if outmatched, take your soldiers and run away. And like I said, man, so you have to hightail it or you dead, right? So this isn't like, you got a lot of things like, hey, man, I ain't no punk. I don't run. All right. Punk in the box. What do they call it? Punk in the box. You know what I'm saying? What is it? Not a punk in the box, but you'll be in a box, man, quickly. Because what happens is sometimes running is not a bad thing. Again, in fact, the theme throughout this book is the best, the baddest, the most powerful generals and warriors are the ones who don't fight. They defeat the whole thing before there's even a fight, and they don't even want to fight because they're like, we're going to cause calamity and disaster. So the goal is that actually you're cooler to not fight, like fight physically if you don't have to. But the ones who could think strategically and overcome something before it even happens, those are the actual sages. Those are the real masters. The ones who, when you're sitting there and you're swinging blades and fists and whatever you're doing, that is the least viable option for any situation. That means, you don't have any intelligence. You don't have any of that unless it's necessary, right? You're in the circumstances and you have to defend yourself or attack. So, attack or defend depends on the circumstances, but either way it's good. So just because something's running doesn't mean that there's cowardice. But in a lot of cases it is cowardice too. So there's a flip of both sides. All right, so but that's what Cacao is saying. Wang Ji says to be able means to be able to motivate others to fight to the death. If you seize victory by raids and ambushes, this is called superiority in intelligence. It is not a matter of clash of armies. See, they even talking about that. So you're talking about ambushes and raids, but they're just saying like the whole thing of all of the clash of armies is the superiority intelligence is doing it a different way, being creative. Mention that too. Be creative in your victory, in your war. So Li Quan, if you calculate your power to be less than that of the opponent, then strengthen your defense. Do not go out and get your edge snapped. Wait until the mood of the enemy gets sluggish, and then go out and attack by surprise. The element of surprise, like I said, is always the best way, because you don't give anybody a chance to react properly. Even if you're intelligent, a surprise attack can throw that off because it takes sometimes time to process information to make decisions. All right, so Dumu, if your forces are not equal to those of the enemy, avoid their edge for the time being, waiting for a gap, then make a determined bid for victory. To be able also means to be able to endure anger and humiliation, not going out to meet the opponent's challenges. This is what I'm talking about right there. That's heavy right there. Yeah, but they got a couple of examples in here of exactly that. Where that's when the guy's sitting there in the arrow, like his army's inside, while all the armies are outside trying to instigate them to come to attack, because they wanted them to attack, but he knew that they would actually defeat themselves. So he sat in his encampment with his generals and had a party. And even when one of the arrows landed on the thing next to him, he wasn't even worried about it, because he knew that it would they would destroy themselves. So that's that's amazing, because it was kind of humiliating, because they were like the generals were like, well, what are you doing? Like, why are we sitting here? We can go out there and destroy them. But he didn't want to kill his men for no reason. He said those guys are out there and they're trying to do a last ditch effort, by all means. He says, so it's not necessary for us to go out there and engage people who are trying to do a last ditch effort. All right, but that was cool, man. So Chin Ho says, this is not so. That is not so. It just means that if the enemy soldiers are more than yours, then you should run away from them, thereby making them haughty and using this in your future plans. It does not mean enduring anger and humiliation. All right, so I guess, so it looks like my man Chin Ho is talking to Dumu, huh? Being able also means be able to endure anger and humiliation, not going out to meet the opponent's challenge. All right, so it looks like Dumu. Chin Ho must have read what Dumu wrote and didn't like it, bro, because he said that is not so. See, these guys, man, y'all about to fight each other, bro. So the art of war is about to be right inside the book, man. These guys are gonna be fighting each other. Come on, guys. And then you're gonna use your strategies against each other. So they're not gonna fight. So maybe this whole battle was ended before it even happened. Because they're both generals. All right, cool, man. So Gia Lin says, if they are more numerous than you, retreat and hide your troop formations so that the enemy does not know. Then set out to ambushes to lie in wait for them. Set up ruses to confuse them. This too is a way of victory. Yeah. You outnumbered, like I said, ambushing and all that other stuff. Outnumbered is basically divided, because when you ambush, you taking little chunks out at a time and you just bringing the numbers down. So, and you're catching them by surprise. So ambush itself is a surprise attack, right? So Zhang Yu says the advice to keep away and not do battle if the opponent is more numerous also applies to the case where all else is equal. The quality of the leadership and of the troops. If your forces are orderly while theirs is chaotic, if you are excited and they are sluggish, then even if they are more numerous, you can do battle. If your soldiers' strength, strategy, and courage are all less than that of the opponent, then you should retreat and watch for an opening. Like this is like really, this is like it all makes sense, right? And this is where ego and all that stuff. That's why he says anger, humiliation, and eager and all that comes into play. So you must control your emotions, because some of these situations will make your ego cause you to get your ass kicked. Excuse my language. I didn't even say it good, but anyway, that's the first curse. Your ego could cause you to get a butt whooping. In these cases, and they use anger a lot throughout the book, of saying that, you know, if you're haughty in anger, because it messes up your ability to think through. So yeah, this is pretty good, man. All right, so that's that. We're gonna do one more. We're on page 77, and oh shoot, am I doing? Oh man, was I missing these? Sorry about that. I'm not even on the wrong thing. Hold on a second. Yeah, I got to get this. Let me see. Oh, that's the wrong. Okay, here we go. This what? It jumped all the way to page 77, or did it? Page 75. Oh, okay. Oh wow, I didn't realize it was that many. Okay, so it was a whole page of notes. I didn't realize I was reading that much. All right, so we'll just run through this one, and then we'll finish off here. So therefore, if the smaller side is stubborn, it becomes the captive of the larger size. That's exactly what I was talking about. Like that stubborn is emotion. Stubbornness is emotional. That's that right there. This is exactly what I was saying. Your anger and emotions is what create the biggest problems, right? So you know that you're the smaller side, but your ego is so big that you refuse, and then you become the captive of the larger side. And that's why when they're saying retreat, they're not saying being cowardice, they're saying being strategic and smart. So they're using intelligence as opposed to cowardice, right? So you're not scared to retreat. You're retreating because you don't have the advantage. And everything about war is advantage, right? So, all right, I like that. That's my take on it. So Li Quan said, if the smaller side battles stubbornly without taking its strength into account, without assessing itself, it will surely be captured by the larger side. And this is when they talk about you could determine victory before the fight begins, right? Because if you do a proper assessments and you're honest with your evaluation of your strengths and weaknesses and do the comparison between the enemy strength and weaknesses, you pretty much know that I'm a brown belt. Let's say if a white belt comes in and they're going up against a black belt, you pretty much know the answer to that one. You can pretty much say 9 out of 10 times the black belt is going to whoop the white belt's butt. Is going to kick the white belt's butt, right? 9 out of 10 times, that's going to be the case. So that way you can determine before you even get into the fight that, hey, there's a high probability that I'm not going to beat this black belt when I just started. But that's what they're talking about in war. All right, so this small, let me just, so Meng Shi says, the small cannot stand up to the large. This means that if a small country does not assess its power and dares to become the enemy of a large country, no matter how firm its defenses be, it will inevitably become a captive nation. The spring and autumn annals say, if you cannot be strong and yet cannot, or if you cannot be strong and yet cannot be weak, this will result in your defeat. Yep, that's deep, man. All right, so Yo Yangzi says, Yo Yangzi told the story of the right general Su Yang of the Han Dynasty, a vice general in the wars with the invading Huns of ancient times. Right General Su and Forward General Zhao of the Forward Army were leading a division of several thousand troops when he encountered a Hunnish force 10 times as large. They fought all day until the Chinese army was decimated. Now, Forward General Zhou, a foreigner who had earlier surrendered to the Chinese in exchange for rank and title, was invited by the Huns to join them. So he took the rest of his mounted troops, about 800 or so, and surrendered to the Shan Yu, the Hunnish chieftain. Right General Su, now having lost his entire army, was at a loss to know where to go, being the sole survivor. The great general asked several of his top advisors what to do about the case of Right General Su. One said, we have not executed a single vice general on this campaign. Now this Su Jian has deserted his army. We should execute him to show him how serious we are. But another said, no, that is not right. The rule of martial arts says it is the very stubbornness of the smaller side that makes it the captive of the larger side. Now, this Su was alone with a few thousand troops when he ran into Shin Yu with a few tens of thousands. He fought hard for over a day, not daring to have any other thought as long as any of his soldiers were left. If we execute him now, he has come back by himself. This would be showing people there is no sense in returning. Wow, okay, that's a nice one. All right, so look, there's 3 minutes and 34 minutes, but I'm just going to reread this last part, right? So he says, no, that is not right. The rule of martial arts says that it is the very stubbornness of the smaller side that makes it the captive of the larger side. Now, this Su was alone with a few thousand troops when he ran into Shan Yu with a few tens of thousands. So he had a few thousand. This other thing has thousands. And he still fought hard over a day, not daring to have any other thought as long as any of his troops were left. So basically what he did is he fought. The reason why he was by himself wasn't because he ran. This guy fought until he was the last person alive. And then he left. So that's what he's saying. So he's like, man, daring to have any other thought as long as any of his soldiers were left. If we execute him now, that he has come back by himself, this would be showing people there is no sense in returning. Boom, man. This is intelligence, man. This is what I'm saying. All right. So listen, we're gonna end it right there. Again, that was awesome. I definitely appreciate you being here. Appreciate you taking the time to listen, helping me as well as with the lighting and the testing. It's not just lighting, it's a presentation, how I'm talking. If you see anything wrong, because I'm just trying to like I said, trying to perfect my craft, like how it's in the Art of War, how the book is. I'm trying to do it, start right. Like I'm trying to prepare properly before I start going officially live, right? Like this is live. I'm doing this because, oh wait, we got some comments. Hold on a second. Oh man, see, that's what I'm saying. I got to get my thing right. Let me see what we got. Okay, so this is somebody from what is it, 303? It's always 30 minutes by the time I get it. So I'm assuming this is some type of bot. All right, so I'm thinking some type of bot from another country is hitting us up. But anyway, that's it. Close it out. Definitely appreciate you being here. Have a good night, good evening, good morning, depending on where you're at in the world. And I hope you have a great and wonderful day. All right, so we're going to definitely end the broadcast here. Take it easy, man. Take it out.